Welcome back to my episode 7 on HBR's 10 must reads on emotional intelligence. Today I'm going to be in a storytelling mode. The day everything broke. When Ananya walked into the office that Monday, it felt like walking into a different company. On Friday, their regional data center had gone down after a freak storm. Orders failed, customers couldn't log in, and social media was full of angry posts. Over the weekend, the leadership team had slept on couches in the boardroom, trying to hold things together with manual workarounds and endless calls. Now, as the sun came up, everyone looked exhausted and scared. Ananya was head of operations. People were waiting for her to say something that made sense. She didn't feel ready. Segment 1. Facing the truth no one wants to hear. At 9 a.m., the whole team gathered in the cafeteria. Eyes on her, arms folded. Some people had family in the affected region. Others were worried about losing customers or even their jobs. Everyone wanted reassurance. Ananya took a deep breath and did the opposite. "I'm not going to lie to you," she began. "The damage is worse than we thought. The data center is out for days, not hours. We will lose orders, some customers will leave, and yes, this week is going to be hard." The room went quiet in a different way. She didn't say, "We have got this, don't worry," because right now that would have been a lie. She laid out the facts, what systems were down, which regions were hit hardest, and what they still didn't know. She answered questions, including the angry ones. No spin, no pretending. In that moment, Ananya did what resilient leaders do first. She faced reality and she let everyone see it. Not to scare them, but to move from rumors to truth. Segment 2. Why this fight matters. When the questions slowed, she changed the slide. On the screen, photos appeared. A small pharmacy in a rural town, a college student in another country getting her first debit card, a cafe that had just switched their payment platform. "These are our customers," Ananya said. "For many of them, we are not just a logo. We are the way they get paid, buy medicine or pay for school." She paused. "This is not just a systems issue. It's a trust issue. Our jobs this week isn't to look good. It's to show up for them even when we are not at our best." People shifted in their chairs. Some leaned forward. The problem was the same, but it now meant something different. Resilient people don't just see hardship. They attach meaning to it. They find why. That makes effort and sacrifice feel worthwhile. For Ananya's team, the why wasn't hit this quarter's target. It was don't abandon the people who rely on us most when things go wrong. That meaning changed the energy in the room. Segment 3, making it up as you go on purpose. Then came the hard part, what to do. Here is the truth, Ananya admitted. Our standard playbook doesn't fully cover this. We are going to have to improvise. She broke the room into small groups. One group listed all critical customer journeys they could replicate manually, batching transactions using temporary spreadsheets, rerouting through unaffected systems. Another group drafted simple scripts for customer service teams, how to explain the situation honestly, what they could promise and what they couldn't. A third group mapped every partner, vendor, and regional office that could lend capacity or share infrastructure. Nothing was elegant. Some ideas looked messy, but Ananya had given a clear constraint. If it helps one more customer get what they need today, it's worth testing. By afternoon, they had a crude but working manual queue for high-risk transactions, a temporary partnership with a regional provider to handle overflow, a crisis FAQ, an honest email ready to go to customers, signed by name, not no reply. They were doing bricolage, a fancy word for fixing the plane while it's flying, with whatever tools you can reach. Resilience almost never looks like executing a perfect plan. It looks like structured improvisation. Just enough process to keep you safe, just enough creativity to move you forward. Segment 4, the week that changed the team. The week was brutal. Some nights people slept in the office. They made mistakes and fixed them fast. They argued about priorities, then realigned around the purpose. Who needs us most right now? They didn't save every customer, some left, but many didn't. And something else happened. On Friday, a small shop owner from the affected region called their support line just to say, "You didn't hide. You told us what was going on. You called back when you said you would. I'm staying." Inside the company, people who had never spoken before were now trading tips, check-ins, and jokes over coffee. Teams that used to compete had shared a crisis and solved it together. The systems were still not perfect, but the organization was different. They had 1. Faced the hard facts together. 2. Found a shared meaning that made effort bearable. 3. Improvised solutions instead of waiting for a perfect answer. Finally, we can say that they were more resilient, not in theory but in muscle memory. Before concluding my episode, think about your current challenge, a toxic project, a tough quarter, a personal setback. Ask yourself 3 questions. 1. What reality am I still avoiding? 2. What meaning could I choose here that makes this struggle worth it? 3. With what I have right now, not that I wish I had, wasn't one small, imperfect move I can improvise today. That's the story of resilience. Not a hero who never fails, but a team that learns how to see clearly, care deeply, and act creatively when everything breaks. My next micro learning is on emotional agility by Susan David and Christina Concleton. Don't get hooked. Stay tuned. This is Rajni Ramkumar signing off from the Micro Learning.